Well, 45 years ago, in that feminist primer, still worth reading, The Female Eunuch, Germaine Greer argued that women did not realise how much men hate them. They know now. The advent of social media sites like Twitter and Facebook has displayed some men's views of some women to a worldwide audience. A lot of it is very nasty. Rape threats, death threats made even against recently a woman whose only crime was to support an X Factor contestant. Does social media reveal men's hatred for women? Kate, you were on this programme. You made a comment when you were on this programme last time. I can't even remember what it was, but as ever, it was interesting, it was controversial, it was stimulating.
It wasn't. It was a tiny little comment.
What did you say?
It was just about the way that somebody was being addressed. But so let's just do this.
And what's happened to you as a result of it?
Well, so first of all, let's just start at the top. Does social media reveal men's... I mean, absolutely, of course it does. And we've known that these attitudes are out there for a long time. And social media does exactly that. It's always done that. It takes all these opinions from around the world. But it actually does a lot more than that as well. The other thing that it does is it allows people to access you when you should be safe in your home. You know, suddenly, once upon a time, if there were 100 people gathered outside your house shouting something at you, you would have called the police and it would have been dealt with. But these days, because of social media, people from all over the world, people you would otherwise probably not go anywhere near, are able to get to you, as it were.
So what was it like for you when you,
so
after
what
you made that
happened for me was that I was on this show about a year ago, and we were in a debate about gender equality with Milo, and what happened was that afterwards I received, in 48 hours, I received 165 pages of Twitter abuse, including about 20 rape and death threats, including unpleasant comments about my appearance, lots and lots of those.
Because of what you said to Milo over here?
Well, not because, I mean, many of them were from Milo, and many of them were egged on by him, many of them were encouraged by him, many people were retweeting him, you know, my head photoshopped onto unattractive bodies, this kind of thing, pictures of me manipulated to look horrible or whatever. And the fact is that I'm not the first or the last person to have been on the receiving end of this kind of onslaught. And these are not people questioning what I've said. From Milo and from a group of people that he supports and encourages. And, you know, if I was in that situation and supporters of mine were to do this kind of thing, I would, of course, turn around and say, hey, this is not cool, this is not OK. But instead of which, you know, egged on by a community of a deep-rooted misogynists, this is the world that we now live in. And it's not just me. Lots and lots of women have been affected by this, including teenagers, including women from all around the world.
OK, Milo.
It's about time we address it.
What have you turned into? What have you turned into?
I used to be such a nice young man.
Well, you did. You're a kind of Führer of the furious now.
How can you
You're sort of Major General of misogyny.
It's hard to believe, isn't it, that this...
well, why have your army reacted like that? You can't support those comments.
No, of course not. But here's the thing. I understand why Kate doesn't understand how fame works, but I do. And the thing is, you know, I'm not particularly interested in a professional provocateur who goes out and says deliberately outrageous things, like I do, turning around and then playing the victim when she doesn't like ridicule or criticism afterwards.
I don't say anything outrageous.
Ridicule, let me finish. I'll let you finish.
Rights.
I'll let you finish, so stop. You know,
no.
After she lost the debate, as feminists very often do these days, because they've got facts on their side, you know, she turned around and she did what feminists always do, which is confect a sob story. Now, Kate is, like me, a professional provocateur, but only one of us plays the victim afterwards. Now, it's interesting, you know, if we get back to the question, it's interesting that, you know, that it's even being framed like this at all, because what the research shows, the Pew Global data from 2014 shows, is that actually it's men who get more abuse online than women. It is men who get more death threats. It's men who get more violent threats. The only thing that women beat men at, and this is Pew Global data, is the gold standard of research. The only thing that women beat men in is cyber stalking. And guess what? A lot of the people doing the stalking are other women. What social media shows isn't that men hate women, it's that women hate everyone. Okay. And that women are the... Wait. Let me just finish this. Let me finish this point. I promise I'll be quick.
That's an outrageous thing to say.
I promise I'm going to qualify. I'm going to explain what I mean by that, right?
It's amazing
not
how
only
much
are men...
Not
only... I'm going to get to you, Connie.
OK, explain that to my four daughters, what you just said.
Not only...
Take the camera off it.
Not only...
Outrageous.
This is...
Not only...
Free speech.
Not only...
Speech doesn't mean that it's not outrageous.
Well, we'll talk about your free speech about Tim Hunt in a minute. not only are men the primary victims...
This is the man who
Not only are men the primary victims of this, but women are the primary perpetrators.
Wait, let him finish.
Now, it's interesting, isn't it?
Why should we let him finish?
How much time are you
getting?
Okay.
How much time are you giving him?
Connie.
This is the man who went on Twitter recently and said he wanted somebody assassinated.
No, I didn't.
Okay.
You're a liar.
Yeah.
You lied about Tim Hunt. You lied about Tim Hunt, and now you're lying about me.
He said he wanted
Please, Milo, let Connie...
Let Connie... Shut up.
Listen,
you are a fraud and you are a liar.
If I were to leave you all... If I were to walk out of the studio now and leave you all to it, mayhem would ensue.
Nicky, if you were to walk out of the studio, I would come with you, because I don't believe you should be giving airtime to someone who's a serial offender.
You are...
Wait a minute, wait a minute. I want silence. I want silence. I want us all to enjoy just a little 10-second window of silence, and then we can all calm down. No talking for 10 seconds. Kate, what were you going to say?
What I was going to say is that, you know, I don't want this to be a debate about one individual. I think it's a shame that people give airtime to somebody, you know, whose views and whose completely horrific statements have been so widely seen, and we should be no better.
It's good to challenge, though, isn't it?
The point is that there is a huge, huge weight of, and young women especially who go out and speak up online are facing a huge backlash, and I think it's very frightening. I'm often asked to do things like go into schools, and teachers always want me to go in and encourage young women to speak up and express themselves, and I'm forced to say I don't actually think that young women are stupid. I don't think that when they don't express themselves it's because they're all bashful and nervous and they don't know what to say. I think that they know what social media is really like. I think the facts are pretty plain to see.
View of women.
And I think that that if we want young people to speak out and to feel comfortable expressing themselves, then what we need to do is make the internet a place where they can do so. That means bringing in sensible laws and training the police to deal with these kind of things. And there's a sort of echo in the background.
I'm going to come to you in a minute. And Connie, I'm going to come to you for a nice little bit in a minute.
We need the police to be trained how to deal with this. We need straightforward training on when to act and when not to act, to make sure that the worst things, the rape and the death threats, the horrific harassment and abuse is dealt with. And I think that when we see a few high-profile individuals, perhaps including some in this studio, locked up, it'll be time for other people to back off.
Okay,
and I very much look forward to that day.
All right, Milo, I'll come to you. Connie, I'm going to come to you in just a second, OK? That's all right, and we'll have a... Yeah, you can. You were going to come back in.
Yeah, let me...
No, over here.
Someone has to reveal how very similar these two arguments are, because what actually both Milo and Kate are saying is that people can be made to feel victimised and very nervous and scared of the internet, whether that be men or women. But actually, I want to put, and it's both kind of very pathetic view of how people deal with insults and words, because really most people, especially on Twitter,
I'm talking about
when they receive this kind of
rape and death.
Rape and death threats are bad, but when they receive this kind of rubbish on Twitter, they block or they ignore. And I really want to pick up on this idea that women...
Please, Kate, let us...
It's very telling that kind of, you know, this is what happens. Middle-class women decide that they want to take on the plight of women and that women are victimised, women can't handle the internet. It's absolutely ridiculous and disgusting and sexist and patronising to say that women can't handle the internet.
Racist.
The internet should never be a safe space. The internet women should be able to experience everything about public life. We fought for that throughout history, and here's somebody who wants to shut us away from it.
OK, well, listen, here's the plan. Here's the plan. I'm going to go from Connie to Connie. We're going to hear Connie's story, and I'm going to get Milo to respond, and then Kate, we'll get another...
Please no more about these egomaniacs.
No more about egomaniacs as well. And any audience who want to say something? OK, that's ideally how it's going to be structured. All right. Connie, we heard reference to him and the whole situation, the saga there from Milo Yiannopoulos. Professor Tim Hunt, he made a really not very funny off-taste joke, and he did it in a lecture hall? It was a room full of in South Korea. Some would say it wasn't hugely offensive, got worldwide attention. Ultimately, nothing to do with you, but he lost his job. But you had drawn people's attention to it. But then the reaction to your reaction was just extraordinary. What have you gone through?
So this has been really dreadful, and it's kind of exhibited here by the way Milo felt he could just shout abuse across the studio at me. And I think what's really interesting about this is that It's not about how people use the Twitter. It's about people trying to maintain a political status quo. So a lot of what goes on, there are people in America like Rush Limbaugh who have a very right-wing ideology, and that means they don't want to hear from women, they don't want to hear from people of other colours, they don't want to hear any other contrasting conservative view. And these people are very loud, and these people are very determined to shut a lot of people up. So I report something, I'm a journalist, I can report things, and in the end, in order to protect some stupid comment, then I have to be discredited. I don't have to be discredited. I did nothing wrong. I'm not a liar. I don't have to even defend myself. As a journalist, I can put a story out there.
What happened to you? What kind of abuse did you have online?
So
through emails?
I didn't just have abuse online. I had lots of letters sent to my office that were very racist. People would phone me up and scream really racist things. They would send me pictures of monkeys hanging in trees with saying, go back to your hut, go back to your jungle, you're not welcome here. It's like we are back 50 years in the racial economy of this country. People are really crude, and it's very sad for people like me who've been here and you're trying to make things different for the next generation. And there's no change. This country is just as racist, just as white, male privileged as it has always been.
Some people. These are some people. These are people who would never say it to your face. They're keyboard warriors, aren't they?
They never say it to your face, and they always say all these abusive things. They won't stand up and own their statements.
It's a minority of men.
And it's not about hatred.
It's a minority of men.
Hang
on.
No, it's hundreds and thousands of men if you're trying to.
But there are millions of men. Right? So
yeah.
Milo, I said we'd come to Milo. I mean, I know you want to respond to that, but you did this poll online.
Yes, I did.
What would you rather your child had, feminism or cancer?
Yep. And 22,000 people voted, and people voted in favour of cancer.
It's a good scientific thing.
What the statistics show us is that in just 2 years, the number of women who identify as a feminist in the US has gone from 28 to 18%. The number of British women who identify as feminists has slumped to an all-time low of 7%. Why? Because these are the kinds of representatives of feminism. Professional provocateurs who play the victim after the fact, and professors of science journalism who deliberately misrepresent statements by Nobel Prize-winning scientists in an attempt to end their career, who repeatedly lie to journalists, BuzzFeed, The Daily Beast, the BBC, all of them have had to issue
No, you're a liar.
All of them have had to issue corrections over statements you made.
People can just look this up.
And this, of course, is a professor of science journalism who fabricated her CV as well.
We have to get a response from that. Audience in a minute. Put your hands up so I know where to come.
If you're not going to let me make the case...
Well, she has to respond to that.
Well, I'm going to make specific accusations she can respond to.
Who cares about people throwing back accusations at themselves? I'm sure really not many people are interested in what's going on between you three. They're not, because, I mean, this is what people like this do on Twitter. They create a hubbub around controversial stuff. They say, this poll, if you're any kind of, like, intellectual person or with half a brain, you'd laugh at such rubbish. I don't, but I also don't want to... this is the whole thing about Twitter and the internet. If you're going to be a political person, and journalists are political people, you put out opinion there, and I often put out opinions that people find absolutely abhorrent and disgusting because they don't agree with me, and the emotional overreaction to that comes in the form of, you're fat, you're this, all horrible stuff. Yes, and it's unpleasant, but the whole point is, as you're taking that risk to step out into...
A monkey hanging from a tree.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not condoning this. I'm not condoning this. But what do we ask? Please, what do we ask?
OK, Milo, wait, call me in a second.
Do we bring in more laws and regulations?
Milo, a monkey hanging from a tree.
I'm being completely mischaracterised because I'm very much on your camp on free speech thing. It is disgusting and deplorable.
You are a liar.
It's disgusting and deplorable why anybody would want to send anybody that kind of racist abuse. It's awful. I would never want to be in the same room as somebody like that. However...
And yet they're your followers and your fans.
You
don't even have...
Let's hear the however.
However, I am not responsible for what other people put on Twitter. 150,000 people follow me on Twitter, 50,000 on YouTube, 75,000 on Facebook. I am not responsible as a public figure for what a tiny minority of idiots say to people that I disagree with. Yet I'm held accountable for it in a studio, and I was accused of calling for someone's assassination. These are outright, incredible, galling lies from people who have a history of dishonesty.
OK, Connie.
We've seen the tweet.
Hands up. Connie,
it's all over the web.
Yes, your fabricated CV is all over the web as well.
And because
you lied about your bylines, you lied about your qualifications, and you lied about Tim Hunt. You are a Professor of Science Journalism. You should be ashamed of yourself.
Should we let Connie respond to that?
It's pathetic.
See? I've got 150,000 followers in the audience.
Yeah, but your account's verified, Nikki.
Connie.
So, Milo just called for somebody to be assassinated. Twitter essentially struck him off.
He's saying he didn't.
Yeah.
No, I didn't. What was the tweet?
Of course, he's lying.
What was the tweet? What was the wording of the tweet? What did it say?
So, actually, we don't need to believe everything he's saying.
What did it say?
He's a particular...
What did the tweet say?
Milo, let's hear Connie.
He's a particular kind...
You accuse her of crime. She should justify herself.
OK, Connie.
He's a particular kind of person that makes his money and his fortune on Twitter, and he wants to develop his public persona on Twitter. There's lots of people like him around.
How did he call for someone's assassination?
He called for it on a tweet because somebody challenged him.
Whose assassination?
And
what was the wording?
As a result, Twitter have unverified or de-verified him.
Not true. Total lie.
And they are now... You wrote about it yourself, Milo. It's nonsense. Absolute nonsense.
It's just not true.
And this is...
You need to address the allegations.
This is the kind of person that has tried to make a fortune and their fame on Twitter because they're desperate.
What?
So why do we care about this?
So my colleague in America, one of my colleagues, Charles Blow, is a very, very fine commentator on, and he writes for the New York Times, and he wrote recently something, and as a result, he also got a death threat. And he said to Twitter, isn't it time you take some of these people off Twitter? And Twitter said, just contact the police if somebody shoots you. This person threatened to shoot him on Twitter. And people like Milo are those kind of people, and they need to be taken off. And they need to be taken off by Twitter.
Quick audience. So, gentlemen, please make it quick comments. We're coming to the end. Quick comments.
Yeah, I think ladies over here who suffered this abuse and all other women and men, and just for people to say things like, oh, just block them, just delete them, just ignore it. It's terrible. Like, they've been abused. They need to be held accountable for that.
They're just words.
They're just words. Go on.
Yeah, I'm just going to say, I mean, social media it really is just a petri dish of the entirety of society, really. But I have to say that a vacuous person like this is not representative of men on social media.
But, you know, Milo, you're a controversialist, you know.
Controversialist or egomaniac. I mean, the point is...
But you defend his right to be a controversialist.
I defend anybody's right to say anything, and that's the important distinction between what I'm saying and what everybody else is saying, is that I think you should be able to say the most abhorrent, the most awful things, because words are words, and especially on Twitter. The only time I would ever be afraid of a man, or a man would ever intimidate me, is if he was threatening my life physically. That can't happen on Twitter because it's just words. The amount of stuff that you get, death threats, evil stuff, block them. Be an adult. Are you a girl or are you a woman? Be an adult, please.
You have got about 40 seconds to respond, Milo, and get the last word in here. Because there's a lot of accusations. Well, you know, it's time. It's time.
Very straight.
Lots of people talking.
It's very straightforward. Let's not make it about me. You've got lying feminists throwing accusations. Who cares?
Okay, now we've just been accused.
Let's not. The fact is that the research does not support the premise of this question. It does not support them. It does not support any of the stuff you're talking
You just said lying feminists.
Internet abuse is a very real thing, and it silences women's voices. It makes women afraid to speak out, and there's so many important reasons why they should be able to. There are young people who have committed suicide because of internet abuse, and yet we have people here who not only support it, but who do it themselves. And
Thank you. No. Look, thanks for watching. We will see you next week. Tweet away.